Hey strangers, so last video I asked you guys for questions because I said that I would be making a Q&A video, and I have your questions here, and this is the video. So, moving on. Questions from Tumblr. I will try to get these done, try to get these answered relatively quickly so that I don't spend another 20 minutes and bore the shit out of you guys because I still don't have video editing software. So, from Tumblr, Panic Discos asks, how do you feel about cats? I own a cat. She is black. She has green eyes. Her name is Nimbus. She's my best friend, and I hated cats previously before I got this cat. I adopted her from a friend, but now that I own a cat, I love cats, and I tried to get her to come out here to participate in this video, but she refuses because it's bright out and she likes to sleep under the bed. And so, moving on to the next question. Anonymous asks, how do you get less than supportive parents, family, co-workers to use a new name? Just asking hasn't cut it. I feel like legalizing it would be forcing them to acknowledge it, but might be premature if it doesn't suit me. So, my method for doing that was just by being really annoying, and basically every time someone called me the wrong name, I would just correct them, and eventually people get annoyed enough with me by doing that they just go along with it even if they don't want to. I wasn't met with a particularly large amount of resistance except for like a little bit from my parents initially. But yeah, I basically just like, you can also compare it to like, there are other people who have name preferences. Like, being trans is not the only reason why you would have a preferred name. People change their names all the time. People go by a nickname, people go by their middle names, like, and it's really just respecting, like, your agency and respecting what you want to, you know, identify as and what you want to be referred to as a person, and defaulting to your legal name, regardless of whether it's because you're trans or not, is just really disrespectful. Like, it's disrespectful to anyone, regardless of their reason for changing their name. And so, yeah, like, it might be useful to word it in a way that isn't, it's not about your trans identity, it's just about respecting you as a person the same way they would respect anyone else. People call each other by things that are not their legal names all the time. People have preferred names for reasons other than gender identity all the time, and it's just a matter of respect. It's just a matter of respecting people's preferences and respecting their choices and respecting, you know, what they're comfortable being called, and you can't tell someone else what they should go by. Like, that's just so presumptuous. So, I don't know. I would just, if you're comfortable doing it, I would just correct people all the time, just all the time. Fucking paint it on your forehead like this is my name, and just be a real dick about it, because that's what I did, and it worked pretty well. And I'm sorry if that advice is not helpful, but that's all I have to say. Another anonymous asks, what do you do if someone you meet assumes your gender? How do you feel about your height? What is the best color your hair has ever been? You should also show your favorite outfits. So, covering these in chronological order. What do I do if someone I meet assumes my gender? Depending on the circumstance, I will either correct them or not. Depending, I get called male and female pretty equally depending on what I'm wearing and the circumstance and, you know, what gender I'm behaving like that day. But yeah, if it's just someone that I'm meeting very casually, like, you know, like the cashier at the coffee shop or something like that, like, or the barista or whatever, or someone that I'm just having like a passing encounter with, I usually don't have the emotional energy to just be like, this is a great opportunity to teach you something, especially since, like, I feel like for people who are in customer service, like, they're just trying to be polite, you know what I mean? They're not trying to be rude, and I don't want to, like, entrap someone into a gender theory lesson because, like, I feel like as a customer, I'm kind of, like, in a position of authority over people who are serving me, who are working in the service industry, so I don't really feel comfortable most of the time, unless I have a rapport with the person, to really, like, you know, take their time and go into the whole thing about gender theory when they're just trying to be polite. That being said, like, sometimes if I'm just in a place where I feel like I really want to do that, or if it's with a cashier or something that I have a rapport with, or who I interact with on, like, a semi-regular basis, I might, like, briefly mention something, but most of the time I just leave it. If it's with someone that I'm meeting that I'm going to have to meet again, like if it's someone that I'm meeting who is a class like a classmate or a mutual friend or a coworker or something like that, then I will tell them just right away. Like as soon as I hear them misgender me for the first time, I explain to them either publicly, because I'm very open about it to everyone, or I'll pull them aside and say, like, just so you know, or sometimes I'll even message them, like send them an email or Facebook message afterwards if I don't feel comfortable talking to them about it at the time. But yeah, if it's someone that I'm meeting and I'm gonna have to have some sort of relationship with that person in the future, then I just correct it right away. If it's a casual interaction, a lot of the time I don't say anything, unless like I feel like it's something that I want to do, or it's like, I just read it based on the situation. If it's something I feel comfortable correcting, or if I think that it would be more hassle than it's worth, then I just leave it. I don't really. It's difficult not being perceived as the gender that you are in public, but it's also just like I kind of acknowledge that most people just don't know. Like people who know about non-binary things read me as non-binary, but like it's not, my job to teach my gender to everyone, and a lot of it's even just like sparing myself the hassle of having to have that conversation with everyone I meet, that I have really just been trying to let it slide lately. But that's just me. I'm not telling other people how to deal with it, but that's what I do. How do you feel about your height? I have always been extremely dysphoric about my height for most of my life. I very recently it's been bothering me less. I don't know, like I feel like it's something that over the past couple of years I've only just started to come to terms with. It still pisses me the fuck off when I meet people and one of the first things they do is point out my height. Like, if you do that, you're in my bad books for the rest of our relationship. Sorry. Like, I absolutely hate it when people point out how short I am. But it, like, personally within myself, like, it's something that I've kind of come to terms with, and I just kind of, like, think of examples of, like, people that I know of or respect who are also very short people. Like, Daniel Radcliffe is 5'3", he's the same height as me. Nicki Minaj is, I believe, shorter than me. She's, like, really, really short. I don't know how short she is. But yeah, there's a lot of amazing short people, and if you're short, then just try to find other short people that you think are really cool and be like, I'm the same height as Harry Potter, so fuck off. I don't know. What else? What is the best color your hair has ever been? This, I think, is the best color my hair has ever been, personally. You should show your favorite outfits. I don't have a video editor, so I cannot insert pictures into this video, but I will include a link to my fashion tag on my blog where I post outfits semi-frequently. And I'll probably post a few more outfits that I haven't posted and add them in there. So if you ever want to see what I'm wearing, just go there. I also have an Instagram that I post things on sometimes, and I'll link that in the description. How do you, another different anonymous said, how do you manage dysphoria? I don't. I cry all the time. Moving on. Yeah, I don't know. I just, I deal with this dysphoria by trying to distract myself, trying to remind myself that other people's opinions don't really matter, and how gender is a bunch of bullshit anyway, and that as far as like my chest and stuff like that, like I am going to be getting top surgery soon. Like, what I feel like I've made a lot of progress in dealing with my dysphoria. Like, I'm actually planning on uploading a video soon that I recently discovered, which was an old vlog that I made when I was in a really rough place with accepting my gender identity. It was a vlog that I made when I was first realizing that I wasn't a trans guy, that I was non-binary, but I was also still dealing with a lot of internalized sexism and a lot of really severe dysphoria. And I feel like I'm going to upload that soon, just for the sake of transparency and for the sake of, radical vulnerability, that I feel like people see me now since I started doing all this advocacy work, and they think that I've just always been like this. But I was watching that video like just before I started recording this one, and I was really fucked up in that video, and I was really I was really depressed and dysphoric and in a really bad place in my life, and I don't want to share it with you to depress you, but I want to share it with you to kind of like give context as to like the kind of things that I've struggled with in my journey, and that, you know, it hasn't always been easy for me to accept myself. And so I feel like I've made a lot of progress since then in dealing with my dysphoria, in just kind of, you know, being radically self accepting and realizing that there are some things about myself that I can't change and shouldn't change. Things like my mannerisms, the way I talk, you know, my interests and things like that. Like, those are things that I don't want to have to change about myself, and so I have no choice but to accept them. And as far as some other, like, more physical forms of dysphoria, I try to just like, this sounds like a really unhealthy coping mechanism, but for me personally, because like I am on the wait list for top surgery, I tend to just practice that whole like put it in a box and put it away kind of method of dealing with it, where sometimes when I start to think about my chest and I start to really think about it, I'm just like, okay, I can't go down that road right now. And like, because it's something that there is an end in sight for me, I have a tendency to just like acknowledge the thought and then just being like, it's not healthy for me to be going down that road right now, and I really just try to put it away and distract myself, because I'm like, this is going to be taken care of within the next year or so, and if I just let myself dwell on it all the time, then I'm just going to ruin my life. So mostly I just try not to think about it and try to distract myself and try not to put like too much energy into it. And I know that that's might not be helpful advice, but this is a Q&A about me, not about me giving advice for other people, and sometimes I have to make that distinction. Another anonymous said, "For your video, I'd love to hear you talk about clothing. I'm non-binary, and while things that I wear are traditionally seen as feminine, I connotate different clothing items and silhouettes with different forms of expression, and in some ways give me a sense of gender euphoria. Not looking for a specific answer, but would like to hear your musings on fashion / expression / euphoria / gender / societal views / anything related you wanted to share." So, anyone who follows me on Tumblr probably knows that I'm pretty into fashion and non-binary gender expression, and exploring like variations and fluidity and androgyny in fashion and gender expression. And so I feel like I probably do have a lot of thoughts on this, but I honestly haven't put a lot of thought into it. I view my gender expression as being very expansive and actually like opening up a lot of possibilities for unique forms of gender expression, rather than limiting myself. Like, a lot of people view non-binary as kind of like limiting your gender expression, because you could only express like a very narrow range that is like completely neutral. But for me personally, I feel like my options as an androgynous person and as a gender fluid person are very expansive, and I really like to explore that in kind of like a creative and artistic way. I don't really have very many like organized thoughts on like clothing and gender expression, but I will make a video about it in the future, where I just talk about clothing and my relationship to clothing and stuff like that. NB Superhero said, "I just wanted to ask about books. Do you read fiction or nonfiction, sci-fi or fantasy? Any recommendations? Thanks in advance." So I do read. I don't read very often at this point in my life. I'm going to a program for comic book illustration, so I do read a lot of comic books. As far as comic books, I recommend the series that really got me into comic books in the first place was actually Tank Girl, which is an amazing series. I think it's like 3 parts, there's like 3 volumes if you get them all. So it's pretty easy to read all of them. As far as other things, I'm really into Swamp Thing. I'm really into Transmetropolitan, although I haven't finished it. I'm really into... I don't even know what I'm into. I have my comic books over here. Sweet Tooth was a really great series. I have a lot, if not all, of the Adventure Time comics. I have a lot of Batman comics. I have some random Marvel comics. And I read a lot of series by Image that I'm not caught up on at all. Like, I'm really into the Saga series, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm bad with words. By Image, I'm really into, or I was really into, East of West, which is like a post-apocalyptic thing. It's really cool. I'm really into the Manhattan Project, but all of those series I haven't caught up on in like months and months because I've been busy with school. I also read a lot of novels, but I'm also really bad at reading. Like, I kind of suspect that I'm, like, mildly dyslexic. I don't know. It takes me a really long time to read anything, like, to, like, actually physically read it. And so I haven't really finished a book in a long time, but I did go through a phase last year where I read several novels while I was recovering from surgery. I read Fahrenheit 451, which is really good. Some of my favorite books are Brave New World, 1984, The Alchemist, The Bell Jar. I don't know. I really like a lot of like post-apocalyptic kind of stuff or like dystopian future kind of stuff. I read Animal Farm not that long ago. I'm currently reading Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut, which is really good. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm up to right now. I'm kind of like, I have kind of like a list of like classic novels that I've been like working my way through very, very slowly. And I find I do enjoy most of them. So, yeah, I think Brave New World is like the one that's like really sticking to me as like a prime like recommendation for a good novel. Anyway, I'm taking way too long to record this video. Holy shit. I'm like halfway through. Okay, lightning round. What does welkin gender mean? Welkin gender is a term that has been recently coined by someone that I don't know that literally means, not literally, but it means a gender that can only be explained using the sky as a visual metaphor. And I think that that is really fucking beautiful, and I think that my relationship to gender is allowed to be creative and is allowed to be poetic, and I have a lot of like relationship to the sky and air just as like as something that's always been very personally meaningful to me. And so I don't know, I just like feel it. I feel it when I hear that, you know, like a gender that can only be explained using the sky as a visual metaphor. I even have like the air sign logo, or it's not a logo, but like I have an air sign tattoo, if you can see that. So yeah. And I just look like a cloud if you look at me. I don't know. I feel like I give off that vibe. And so, moving on. Anonymous asked, have you experienced any hair loss? Immediately after that, another Anonymous asked, did you cut your hair? It looks a lot different. Probably the same person who's very invested in my hair. I have cut my hair very recently, although I don't know how you knew that because I haven't really posted any images of myself since I did. As far as experiencing hair loss, no, I did not experience any hair loss, although I have actually intentionally shaved and epilated my hairline to give myself a more, I don't want to say masculine, but like to give myself a more defined like forehead and hairline, because I discovered that like having like baby hairs that kind of like fade into your forehead is pretty much like a very like feminine thing, or something that only really occurs for people who have like estrogen systems. And so I realized that if I like had a higher forehead and a more clearly defined hairline, that it really like helped shape my face in a way that I really liked. And so that's something that I do intentionally, but I haven't actually experienced any hair loss from testosterone. So, person who has a URL that I don't want to say out loud said, first, I just want to thank you so much for what you do. You've helped me a lot personally. My question is, what would you suggest a non-binary person do, generally speaking, in their day-to-day lives to raise awareness, understanding, and support for gender-variant people to make the world more livable for us? Also, do you have any ideas as to certain types of jobs/career paths through which we can best raise awareness and help trans/gender variant people? Thanks. So that's a big question, and probably is something that I could talk about in like its own video. But the biggest thing for me is I think like if you are a gender non-conforming person, if you are a non-binary person and you're able to do this, like be out. Like be open about your identity, and I have total sympathy, I have total understanding for people who don't. I know that I'm a very privileged person, that I am in a position where I'm able to be out in my life with minimal repercussions. But I'm saying that if you are in a similar position and you feel like that's something that you are able to do and something that you want to do, I encourage you to be out in whatever way that you can, and to talk about your identity with people, and to, you know, create resources and create visibility and do interviews and things like that, and really like put yourself out there, because every single person who puts themselves out there is like, you expand the category of what it means to be trans and what it means to be non-binary, and you just add another name and another face that, you know, kids coming up can look to and be like, wow, that's something I relate to. And I think that visibility is an incredibly powerful thing, which is why I'm going into media creation through writing and illustration and comic books and stuff like that, is because I want to create media that has representations of diverse gender identities and has representations of, you know, all kinds of different people who feel, you know, marginalized and undervalued and underrepresented. And so the other thing that I would say is that if you are an artist or a musician or someone who's interested in going into writing or television or any sort of media creation thing, to do so. We need more non-binary people in media. We need more non-binary people, you know, making comic books, making television shows, making cartoons, writing books, things like that. Like, I would say, you know, write a book, even if it's an autobiography. Like, write a children's book about being non-binary. Like, write young adult fiction about being non-binary. Like, write stuff like that. Like, go into like making movies. Like, go into making TV shows. I honestly think that stuff makes a huge difference. And that's what I hopefully plan to do with my life, something along those lines. Also, I would say healthcare. If you want to become a social worker or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a doctor, I would especially say, like, if you're interested in becoming a psychiatrist, I know that's really difficult to do because I believe it's like 8+ years of school. But if it's something you're interested in doing, please do it, because, oh my god, if I could have met a non-binary psychiatrist at some point in my mental health / transition experience, it would have made a world of difference to me, and there is not nearly enough understanding of actual trans people in the, like, mental health field. And so if you wanted to go into, you know, mental health, counseling, social work, even just medical things like that, like, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I think the world definitely needs non-binary people in those fields. But it's ultimately up to you, because honestly, like, your very existence is enough. You know what I mean? And non-binary people don't owe it to anyone to put themselves out there, which is another thing that I want to say. Like, if you just want to live a quiet life and you don't want to do that for anyone, even just existing as a non-binary person in whatever career you have is gonna have an impact to someone. Even if you're a teacher or a tradesman or, you know, a plumber or a physicist or a veterinarian. I don't know what careers, what jobs do people do? I don't know. But whatever job you're doing, just by existing as yourself and existing as a non-binary person in that field is going to make a difference. So those are the things that I think that the world could particularly need, but I don't feel like you have to go into something you wouldn't otherwise want to go into just because you owe it to people, you know? So just, you have no obligation to anyone. And just do what you want to do. Paul Ibera from YouTube asks, are you transgender? Yes, I am transgender. I'm actually planning on making a whole other video explaining why I identify as transgender, what that word means to me, why that identity is significant to me, and other things. But to put the record straight forever, please never ask me this question again. Yes, I identify as transgender, very strongly. Nua from YouTube asks, is welkin gender a xenogender? I do not know what a xenogender means. I'm gonna say no, because I don't know what that means. And I don't identify as anything related to xenogender. So, yeah. Are you still on T? If yes, how long do you plan on staying on T? I would love to be interested, or I would also be interested in hearing more about intersex topics because I would like to have the chance to be more educated on that subject, but I can't think about a specific question right now. I'm not still on T. I went off very recently. I'm probably going to be on and off T for however long. I don't know. I don't really have any plans at this current moment in time, but I'm just, in an off period right now. If I ever wind up getting bottom surgery, then I'm probably going to have to go back on T for at least a short period before I do that. But we'll see how that goes, because I'm probably going to have to pay for that out of pocket, so it won't be for a long time now. But I have no plans on staying off T permanently, but I also currently don't have any plans on going back on T. I'm kind of I just get what I feel like. I don't know. my genders and my transition is just up in the air. Not like up in the air, like in that, I'm not doing it, but, I don't know. I just do whatever I feel like. I would also be interested in hearing about more intersex topics. Yeah, I probably am going to make a separate video about that too, because there are some topics that I got questions about that, I can't answer in a short video. But I'm probably going to make another video talking about, like, my intersex identity and where I'm at with that right now, and, things that I've come to learn about myself and about intersex people and about, the trans community and the relationship between dyadic trans people and intersex trans people and things like that, and that's really, like, enough content for a whole other video, so I will talk about that eventually, though. And that is all the questions that I have. This is a really long fucking video, and I'm sorry for swearing so much too. So yeah, I hope this answered some of your questions. I hope this was somehow enjoyable or informative to you, and I hope you were able to stick it out for the whole 28 minutes that this video is going to wind up being. And so yeah, I have a lot more videos planned and coming up hopefully soon, and I will see you next time.